And you have teachers, of course, very important. Many of you, yeah? Okay, great, okay. So as you've said as an introduction earlier regarding my background, because, okay, we're going to talk about open doors, but, you know, we put this title on the slide because we want to make it clear that even if, of course, I'm doing the promotion of Locarno and open doors, and I think this is a great opportunity for all of you. Unfortunately, I must be very clear, we won't be able to invite everybody of the room to Locarno, okay? So this is why I will come back. And maybe next time, as we discuss, I might come back with more people so that, you know, you have also opportunities to network more and maybe, you know, get some information or know-how or knowledge, you know, from people from elsewhere. Yeah, you know, our wish is, I mean, my wish today is also to possibly guide you in your journey. You know, I think we're all having a journey in our life, personal and professional life. So, you know, of course, Locarno is abroad. And I think most of you, you're coming here today to know more about Locarno, but possibly also about the international scene. So, for example, yesterday I was in Lahore, and at the NCA, we had already a discussion. And, you know, I think it's always important, we were discussing also together about, you know, the various festivals abroad. Of course, there are big names, you know, like Cannes, Berlin, you know, Locarno, obviously. All these festivals, for example, are called A festivals, okay? So this is the most important festival in the world. There are competitions, you can win awards, you can get money, in fact, also cash awards in some festivals like in Locarno. But all of them have their own specificities. You know, in a way, they are all different. And I think it's very important also for you as a filmmaker, producer, or any professional, try to target the right one at the right moment. And it's not always that easy, you know? Same thing for me, for example, I'm coming for the first time here, I'm discovering your country. I do not know everything, you know? I have to get to know you, how you work, you know, and your world, and, you know, and find my own way. That's the same thing for you. If you want to go internationally, you know, you need to find your way. So it will be brief today, even if we have about 2 hours, because I speak already too much. But, you know, the idea is already maybe to guide you a bit. And at the end of the presentation, I mean, the last slides is less on open doors, it's much more what else. What else is possible, you know, abroad. So in a way, of course, I can offer you, you know, to be able to dispatch the PowerPoint presentation, because at the end, for example, in the last slides, I just quote, you know, certain other initiatives which might be interesting depending on where you stand. But, you know, especially if some of you are interested to go internationally and you want to have some more precise feedback, you can obviously ask me questions by the end, okay? So we can start that way? It's fine with you? Okay. So we'll start discovering Locarno. Maybe we can put the first slide. I don't know if I went way. Wow, no? I haven't heard anything in the room. You know, you should say, wow, on this first slide. No, I don't know. I mean, you know, I did. Thank you. No, I discovered Locarno, you know, as a young professional more than 20 years ago. At that time, I was working for a production company, but I was what we call a sales agent, you know, somebody taking care of the international distribution. I was there on this Piazza Grande. The black box, you see, is the projection box, like this one there. That's the black box. Between us now, because of DCP, we are not really using, you know, that box that much any longer. I mean, we do, but it could be much smaller in a way. But, you know, it's kind of a myth now on the piazza. But just to give you an idea, more than 20 years ago, I was on this piazza, and I was with a quite famous now Iranian filmmaker, Mohsen Makhmalbaf. And we had the screening of one of his films, and there was a little daughter at that time, Samira, who was already, she was a teenager, and she was about to make The Apple afterwards. But it was a kind of very magic screening, you know. So as you can see, this is really the heart of Locarno. So Locarno, we're talking about Switzerland. And you know, there's a Swiss delegation, so of course everybody knows Switzerland. Yes, right? Good, this is in Europe, and this is really the crossroads of Europe, okay? It's very important because, you know, it's really, we're a small country compared to you know, we're a very small country. But, you know, we have a great diversity, and we have already, let's say, 3 main languages. We have lots of dialects too, but, you know, 3 main languages. And we are surrounded by bigger countries, you know, like France, Germany, and, you know, Italy. This part, Locarno, you know, the OOO at the end, is much more Italian, no? So this is the Italian part of Switzerland, okay? So the border, you know, a few kilometers away from Locarno, this is Italy. Next time we do the PowerPoint, I should put, you know, indeed some pictures of the landscape, but you have to come and see it because it's beautiful. We were saying that certain parts of Pakistan, sometimes it's called like also little Switzerland, and you have to imagine yourself, you can see it a bit, you know, we have these mountains, and just behind the screen, in fact, there's a lake, one of the most famous lakes of Europe called Lago Maggiore. I'm sorry for the Italian because the French part, I'm not from the Italian part, Vittorio. So this is really a beautiful setting, you know. Locarno takes place in August, and you have to know this is summertime. You know, this is summer holidays in Europe at that time. So, you know, all the people coming, it's a kind of very enjoyable festival for everybody, for professional, the audience, because, you know, this is, even if when we work there, at the festival, of course, we work very hard, but it's a pleasure at the same time, you know, because this is summertime, and, you know, and some professionals sometimes, you know, they really alternate, you know, work and pleasure, you know, they can go for a swim, or they can hike in the mountains, you know, and then, you know, they can go to screenings or work and have meetings. That's the same, in fact, for the audience. You know, so I mean, here you have the big square, the heart of the city. You have to know that it's a really small city, and during the festivals, you know, the population is just like increasing a lot. Just to give you an idea, this big square, you know, the screening can welcome up to 8,000 people. So that's one of the biggest open-air screenings in the world, for sure in Europe, and one of the biggest ones in the world. On the piazza, in fact, I won't talk a lot about the festival unless at the end you want some more information, but I want to focus more on what is, I think, the most important for you today. I mean, especially for the next month, you know, if you wish to come to Locarno. But, you know, this, the festival, of course, this is a major festival. So we have different sections. It's a competitive one, so we have an international competition. But on the side, I mean, not on the side, it's part of the festival, but very often, you know, like the audience, they see only the main competition. In total, we have about 180 films every year. You can think this is a huge figure. Yeah, I mean, okay, it's lots of films. At the same time, many festivals, you know, in the world, as Vittorio or some other people knows, can have hundreds of films. You know, if you go to Toronto, I think they have more than 300 films. You know, it's huge. So we have decided even to reduce a bit the number of films, to be more selective. Why? Because we want really more attention on each film, you know. It can be for the audience, for professional also. So, you know, each section usually has about between 50 to 20 films per section then. And we have, so the international competition, obviously, but we have also other interesting sections, you know. Again, as I was saying, you know, we are all different. You might have 5-year experience, 10, 20 years experience, so everybody can find his own, I would say, section. You know, it can be, you know, international competition, but, you know, you're a first timer, you have a first short film or your first feature, we have dedicated section for that, you know. We have a competition for short films called Pardo di Domani, so we are definitely interested, you know, in screening short films, if you have any. and the same thing for the feature films, you know, if you have the first features. So we're going to focus on open doors after, but you have to know regarding the festival, if any of you are making a film now, completing a film now, it can be a short film or a feature, we are obviously interested, especially because we are going to have a special focus on Pakistan this year at Open Doors. But you know, if we can, I mean, we'll be more than happy, you know, to highlight more Pakistan in globally in the festival. So to have a brand new film for us, like on the Piazza, you know, it will be great to make this dream come true. So if you have any films, you know, which is being completed in the next month, you know, basically we can screen film, you know, for a possible selection till the end of May. I would recommend not to wait too long because you have to just imagine yourself that, you know, we screen lots of films. With the digital technology, it has been very challenging for all festivals. You know, to give you an idea, we receive more than 2,000 short films a year, okay? And about the double for the features. It can go up to 4,000 films we have to screen. So it has become a real issue. And by the way, I'm not recorded, I hope. I don't know. No, it's just for my top management, because there are people even more important than I am. But basically, you might know that, especially in international festival, when you send a film, you want to submit a film, most of the time there is a submission fee. You have to pay something so that you can enter, I mean, you know, submit a film, okay? I know that it can be an issue for some of you sometimes, you know, especially when you're starting in the business, you know. Maybe you have a short film, but, you know, it costs money. So, you know, if there is a financial issue, just let me know. Maybe you send an email before sending the thing, and we can try maybe to waive, you know, the submission fee. So I haven't said anything, but you know, sometimes we can find solution. No, sincerely, because I don't, you know, this festival, it should be open to everybody, to any filmmaker. It's supposed to be the home of filmmakers, established filmmakers, but also, you know, new talents, and we don't want the money to be a problem, okay? So well, just to show you the international dimension, you know, generally speaking, that was, in fact, the figures of 2015, but last year it was about the same. Usually we have more than 60 countries, you know, being represented every year among the selection. Then the number of people, of course, of professionals, is much bigger than 1,000. And 1,000 is only the core, one of the core of the festival. In terms of professional, it means the people who are really involved in producing the film, the producer, and the distribution of the films, you know, like the distributors, the exhibitors, the sales agents, and so on. But if you add then all the filmmakers coming, and the journalists, you know, it's much more like 2,500 of people. Okay? Maybe the next slide. If you have questions, voilà. So now we are going to focus on open doors. So as we said, you know, we had Stephanie who said a few words at an introduction, and she's part of a very important, you know, department, which is what we call SDC, you know, the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. And in fact, the initiative I'm talking about today, Open Doors, we came up with that idea, in fact, 15 years ago. And when we had that idea, you know, of what was the idea, is that basically Locarno, it's in Europe. It's a festival, of course, showing European films, but in fact, 2/3 of the film being screened in, at the festival come from elsewhere, from other continents, okay? So this is really a window on the rest of the world. And the idea was to even strengthen this bridge between Europe, Switzerland, and the rest of the world, the other continents, you know. And we're like, wow, you know, sometimes there are, you know, wonderful filmmakers, talents, you know, in the world. And some of them, wish, to go abroad or to network, to meet, with some film colleagues elsewhere. And it's not that easy, to know where to go, and also, if you come, maybe you go out, from Pakistan to go to Europe for the first time, as it happened, last year, to, for example, some Bhutanese filmmakers or filmmakers from Myanmar. This is a kind of a jump, So the idea was, to create a kind of very specific, I would say, hub or platform, where, these filmmakers, and possibly also producers coming from those countries will be welcome in a particular environment within the festival, which is called then Open Doors. And we will try to bridge them, with international guests, a majority of Europeans. You have to know that even if Locarno is a window on the rest of the world, okay, the majority of what we call the industry people, so the people doing the business, are Europeans. About 80% of the people, okay, come from Europe. So it's much more bridging you if you come to Locarno with Europeans. But there are still about 20% every year of people coming, of professionals coming from other continents, like from the US. We have important people like the directors of Sundance, of the New York Film Festival, or, or last year we have Cameron Bailey from the Toronto International Film Festival, despite the fact that this festival was happening just like a few weeks afterwards. So it's really connecting the people, and of course it's to highlight filmmakers and countries which we have the feeling that they are not so well known, okay? So this initiative has been, existing already for 14 years. We are turning 15 this year. And we have been focusing on already different countries. Just to show you, basically, over the first 14 years, we had 46 countries, about 180 projects. I'm going to talk about that because basically Open Doors, the major part of the activity of Open Doors is not on completed films, okay, but on films you are preparing. So on projects. This is why we're quoting projects and not films, Maybe the next slide. It's just example, we have been over different countries. We have been already to part of Asia. For example, China. We have been also, we had a focus regarding South Asia on India. It was 5 years ago. And we have been to Latin America, to Africa, and, So these are just examples of, projects which became films because, as you know, sometimes, you develop projects and for any reason, sometimes it does not happen, and it's true, for example, in Europe, we have this tradition of developing lots of projects. Even in the US, we see only a small portion of the film and the production of US films, is only a small figure compared to all what they develop, and in Europe also over the last 20 years, we have been developing more projects, working more on the storytelling, especially on the stories, try to improve that part. So, basically, you might sound, if I give you figures, percentage, that is not so good. Usually it's a good figure on the international scene when we talk about films at the stage of projects, because about 45% of the projects which had been selected at Open Doors became films. So that's just examples, like one of them got even the Golden Leopard, the object you see, this is the famous award of Locarno. That one of your film colleague, Sabia Soumar, that she won for Silent Waters, she won the Leopard in 2003, so I hope one of you will get a new one. That every festival almost has an animal as a symbol. So don't say this is a lion in Locarno because you're going to be blacklisted. Huh? Lion is Venice. So our animal, you know, is the leopard, okay? Maybe the next slide. So just to say, this section has been existing for 14 years. What is new and why am I here basically? Is since last year, there are three new things. First of all, we've changed region, okay? So we were in Africa till 2015, and now we are moving to South Asia. We will see the definition of the countries. One very, very, very important element is that we were changing country every year. For the first time ever, we have decided to dedicate 3 years, you know, to this region. So it means that we started last year. So if you're in the room today, it's because you were not in Locarno last year. You can still come to Locarno in the context of open doors this year or next year, okay? The other important element is that we have included much more a training dimension in open doors. What does that mean? It means that before, up to last year, open doors was exclusively what we call a co-production platform. So basically, every year, we were selecting a certain number of projects. So, you know what it is, a project, you're in development. So you have an idea, and then you write a story. So you are in this process of writing the story, okay? So basically, we were receiving scripts, and we were selecting, you know, about 8 scripts, which we thought were at the right stage, you know, to be introduced to the international scene. And of course, we think that the stories that you were telling, you know, could appeal to an international audience, and then that you could possibly find partners, you know, maybe investors, or very important thing also is people taking care of your film on the international scene, you know. You make a film, you produce a film, okay? You release it in your country, hopefully. We were talking about the fact that there have been ups and downs, you know, regarding the theaters. In all countries of the world, there have been, you know, different evolutions. Of course, the dream of a filmmaker when you make a film, you know, is to be on this big screen, you know, not only on the mobile phones, you know, and so on. So the idea of Open Doors was really to help you to find, you know, partners. So this is still the case, as we will see, but now there is a new evolution. I'm going to explain with the next slide. I don't know if you have seen me. Oh, wait. 3 years. We've already said it, huh? Easy. Next one. I'm sorry, it was not the next one. You know, I'm not used to the PowerPoint presentation yet. Huh? So that's the these are the definition of our region for 3 years, okay? So we are focusing on all these countries, and every year we are even highlighting more a country. I will explain you how. And this year, among the countries being highlighted, there is Pakistan, obviously, and we have also Afghanistan and Sri Lanka, Maldives. Next one. So, what are the possibilities for you, basically? As I've said, we have 2 years left, okay? And you're quite lucky, because even if part of it is still confidential, I'm here. I'm not being recorded, so I say what I want. Basically, what is sure today is that all activities are accessible to you, okay? All of them. In a way, we have decided that next year it will be the same, except that there might have a bit less opportunities, less seats, let's say, less invitations for Pakistani filmmakers next year. Why? Just because this year we're having a stronger focus on Pakistan, so we will welcome more Pakistani professionals. Next year, the 8 countries, it will be the closing year. So in fact, you know, there should be a kind of equal visibility for the 8 countries. So it means that, you know, it will be spread more or less evenly, so we won't be able to invite as many, you know, Pakistani as this year. So we have two professional activities and one which is much more for the audience, okay? So let's stress, focus more on the professional side. On the professional side, basically, we have what we call the Open Doors Hub, which is what I was just describing before. This is basically the co-production platform, okay? And the next one, it is a workshop. So it's a one-week workshop, which is called the Open Doors Lab, okay? Let's talk about the hub. And if you have questions, you know, you just wave your hand, okay? Because I do not know if any of you has already participated in a co-production platform somewhere, even in Asia. I don't know if somebody has been to Busan, or where have you been? Okay, yeah. Okay. And you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right. Anybody else, or? Okay, no, because it's a particular thing, the co-production platform. So basically, what happens during the usual co-production platform, for example, I'm going next to, in Europe, to Rotterdam or Berlin. You might have heard, you know, because most festivals in, you know, in the world, especially in Europe, have been developing this kind of, you know, meetings. So in Rotterdam, they have Cinemart. In Berlin, they have the Berlinale co-production platform, okay? What it is, basically, something, you know, they select projects at script stage, okay? Usually, the co-production platform asks that you have at least some of the financing in place, like at least 20% of the money should already be secured before applying to a co-production platform. This is not the case for Open Doors. So just in case you're, you know, developing your project, okay, and for the time being there is not any investor yet, even in Pakistan, you are still eligible. You can submit to us, you know. To Cinemart, Rotterdam, or Berlin, for example, in the next week, it won't be possible. So we are more open that way. Why? Because, you know, we are really much more betting on the talents, on the people, you know, and thanks to the support of SDC, we are able to take more risks in a way, you know, maybe to bet on the, you know, on the project, which is maybe at an earlier stage, okay? So basically, you write a project, you send it to us or to any co-production platform, you know, you're being selected. What happens when you go to the festival, like to Locarno or elsewhere, you know, is we have what we call the one-to-one meetings. In that, basically, it depends on the festival, but most of the time you do not meet the people like we are meeting today, you know? You are not, you know, telling your stories to 100%, okay? You're going to meet individually each person, you know? And usually you have like 20 to 30 minutes max. But the time, you know, you switch meetings, you sit, you say hello, you say goodbye, you know, basically, in real time, it's 20 minutes. So you have 20 minutes with a different person, and you meet people like every half hour, you know, and each time you say, basically, I have the most beautiful project of the world, you know, and you have to do a kind of seducing game, you know, because you know, you're going to meet people who are going to meet, you know, your competitors, you know, you will be in a room sitting maybe with, you know, 35 or 40 other teams, you know, other filmmakers, and very often it's teams, filmmakers, producers, you know, and you're going to meet potential partners, you know, so it means producers, you know, investors, distributors, festival programmers, you know, and you have to try to catch their attention to convince that indeed you have the film of the year, you know, in which they should invest or believe in, and, you know, and so on. So each time you have to convince the person again, you know. So it's just to project yourself, because I think, you know, maybe this is not some, you know, an event that, you know, for which you are ready yet. You know, I was in Lahore yesterday, and some people were saying, oh, that's not for me. You know, I just can't see myself doing like talking to a different person every half hour. How many days? And I was like, yeah, 3 days in a row. Ah, no. It's but how can you still be motivated the second day at 4 p.m. Telling my story for the 18th time already? Yeah, indeed. No, it's true. Huh? It's a certain exercise. So you just have to have this in mind if you want to apply to Open Doors for the co-production platform. But we are nicer in Locarno, you know, because we're like, okay, this is not such an easy exercise for filmmakers, you know. So instead of having like very tight schedule of meetings, I like Berlin and you know and Rotterdam. It's not a criticism. Huh? I like them very much, our competitors. It's just that in Locarno, we want to do things differently. We want to have a different rhythm, okay? What is very important for us is much more the quality of the meeting, that you have more time to meet the people, that you are in a more relaxed atmosphere, you know, instead of being in a, you know, closed room and so on. Usually it's summertime, we're outside on a terrace, and we try to create really a professional, but a relaxed atmosphere, you know. We don't want you to be stressed, you know. We know that there's a lot at stake for you, you know, because if you come to Locarno at the, you know, at the hub, your main priority is to possibly make connections with people you would like to work with internationally and possibly to get money, you know. So of course it's important, it's business, you know, it's, so we want to try you to be really relaxed, you know, so that, okay, you're not too stressed and we are really focused on your film, on your story, on the people you're meeting, and, you know, because sometimes if you are stressed, you know, a bit like me yesterday, I was a bit stressed when we were having our first meeting, you know, and today I was a bit less stressed, and, you know, and then you open up yourself, and then, you know, the communication you have with the other person is different. So we believe in a lot in that, you know. In Locarno, professional, and this is why also this festival has been in my heart for more than 20 years, and as I said, because there was lots of people around already 20 years ago with Mosen McMalbath, you know, but the atmosphere was very special, you know. The people were really around to meet us, and that will be the same thing for you. If you come to Locarno, you know, this is what the filmmakers told us last year. They were like, oh, it's incredible, I've never been out of Bhutan. For the first time I was coming there to Locarno, I was at first like, oh, coming to Bhutan, I'm from Bhutan, you know, I don't dare speaking. Who cares about a Bhutanese filmmaker? That she was telling me, you know. And then they realized that, in fact, that's a huge interest, curiosity of the people, you know. Locarno is known for that, first. Not only the audience, but the professionals also. They're really curious in exploring and discovering new talents, new countries, new culture, you know. So this is a big strength that we have. And, you know, we think that we should do this kind of business, you know, in a different atmosphere and rhythm, you know. Yes? It's only for the projects.
So just the raw projects, not completed films?
Exactly. Not completed films, projects, so it means, it's a very good question. There are two things I want to mention at this point. It should be definitely before production. And it's before production not only at the time of application, okay, but even before your attendance in Locarno. You should not shoot the film, if you apply to the hub, you should not shoot the film before August. There are different reasons for that, and I would even recommend that you should choose a project that you are not planning to shoot before next year, for this year.
So we have to submit the scripts only? Only the scripts?
Alors, I will come back, if you don't mind, by the end, in the later slides, on the really what kind of information we're asking for. But what is very important is the stage. We're talking about development, so before production. And if I'm saying, you know, try to come with a project which you are not intending to shoot before next year, ideally, is just because of the way we finance films in Europe, okay? If you want to try to raise money out of Europe, the most important significant amount of money you could get is always before production, what we call before principal photography, okay? If you are already shooting the film, or the film is shot when you arrive in Locarno, okay? Then you will be able to access in Europe, I mean, the money you could find will be only for what we call post-production. And there is some, it's much smaller, okay? So of course, a potential partner, the person will know that he or she will be able to raise less money. So she will put less money on the table. She won't be able, or he won't be able to help, you know, to support you financially speaking as much. So this is the reason why. And usually I recommend about 6 months, you know, like August, you know, not shooting if you come in August, not shooting before early next year. Also because, you know, I have a bad piece of information to give you.
Yeah, so what about the third section, the open door screenings?
Yeah.
Is it for films?
Yeah, that's for completed films, that one. Okay. So I come to that. I forgot what I wanted to say, sorry. But I come back for the... so anyway, what I wanted to say is about producers, you know. Because the producers you're going to meet in Europe, okay, the definition of a producer in Europe is much more what we call the creative producer. It's a producer who is going to be a collaborator, who is going to help you on the rest of the process of the making of the film. You know, you could, it's not the final version of the script you will bring to Locarno, okay? You might rewrite again the story. So this is someone who could, you know, discuss with you possibilities, you know, could bring maybe ideas, you know. That's what we're used to in Europe, you know. The role of the producer has evolved for the last 15 years in Europe from an only kind of, you know, financial person, and now it's much more balanced between, you know, the creative aspects and the finance, you know. This is why now we say much more creative producer, you know. And you have to know in Europe that most producers, unfortunately, do not have money, or very little money. They have some money, but not that much, okay? So the rule of the game in Europe is what? It's basically a producer, he takes care of the financing, but he has to look for the money for you, okay? And he's going to go and knock at different doors. You know, it will be TV stations, it could be, you know, an exhibitor, someone who's going to put a film, you know, on the screen, on big screens. It could be the VOD platforms, it could be, you know, he has to go to different places to find the money. So, and the problem, and we have also film funds, you know, we have institutes, cinema institutes, you know, and many of them invest in films. And for example, for Pakistani films, there are some specific funds in Europe which are accessible, you know, which do support, you know, films from your country and the rest, for example, of South Asia, okay? But, you know, you cannot submit your project anytime. They have some specific dates. We have a very good one in Switzerland, which is called Vision Sud-Est, and there are 2 calls a year. You can submit your projects only twice a year. There is one deadline, which is coming up in February. The next one is in August, okay? Some other countries, like in Germany, the World Cinema Fund, or in France, Cinéma du Monde, you know, it can be 3 a year. But just to show you, you know? So this is why I was saying, okay, try to have at least 6 months after Locarno before shooting. It's just to give the possibility of having more money for your film. Huh? Then it's your own decision. Basically, to come back to the hub, because the exercise of talking to lots of people, you know, can be new to you, and I have the feeling that if you come, it will be the case. We offer what we call a pitching coaching. Usually, I said in Locarno, and it loves a co-production platform, you know, you are meeting people individually. But some of you might work also in the TV world. I don't know if you're doing some TV movies, TV documentaries, or, yeah? Okay. In Europe, I don't know how it is, but, you know, in Europe, there are also some TV co-production platforms. And when you pitch your project, so when you introduce your project to potential partners, you do it like here, on screen. Big, you know, you do a show, and you have a full auditorium like this one. And you talk to hundreds of people, you know, TV programmers and, you know, buyers and so on, you know, editors, or, you know. So it's really business-like, and it's not one-to-one. You can afterwards have one-to-one meetings, but, you know, usually it happens, you know, in a room like that, you know. On the cinema side, it's a bit different, you know. Some of them do some, you know, global pitching, but, you know, even if you are not that good at the performance, you can still make it up in one-to-one meeting. So basically, because we know it's not an easy exercise, you know, and besides, you're going to tell a story to most of the people who are coming from different cultures, you know. In Europe, so first we say Europe, you know, we come from Switzerland, for example, but, you know, you have to know that there's a diversity of countries. You know, there are close to 30 countries in Europe with different cultures, different languages, and, you know. So the idea of the pitching coaching is try to make you understand how to best, you know, tell a story to some professionals in Europe, okay? Because we can be a bit strange. And we just want to guide you how to seduce us, you know. There are certain things we like or we do not like. And, you know, the person who is doing the pitching coaching, a woman called Sibyl, she's really sweet, and she tries to guide you how to, you know, best tell your story. So basically, for the two activities, you have to plan about a week. That's very important, huh? If you want to come to Open Doors this year, it starts on the 2nd, so it means that you will have to leave Pakistan on the 1st, and you most probably will not come back before the 10th of August. You have to make sure that you will be free the full, like 8 days. Huh? Important thing, two important things, in fact. Okay, 8 projects. Just before, maybe, I don't know if you did the calculation, we have 8 countries. You know, the hub is open to 8 countries. 8 projects, 8 countries. It doesn't mean 1 project per country, okay? Last year we had 8 projects. There were 7 countries represented. There were 2 from Bangladesh, okay? There is no quota. If we fall in love, and I hope so, if we fall in love with 2 projects from here, there will be 2 Pakistani projects, and maybe there won't be any project from Bangladesh, for example, okay? So that's one thing. Second important thing is that there is some money, possible money. Not only you might find, and I hope, you know, some partners, okay? But you can also get some cash awards, okay? So basically, there's a jury of professionals that you are going to meet all together. Usually there are 4 jury members, okay? And you will be meeting them, the 4 of them. Each team, the 8 team, will, you know, present, you know, their projects. Of course, all those people will have read all the documentation that we would have received, and they will have a discussion with you, try to figure out what kind of film you want to make, you know, and of course, what are you looking for, and they're going to give money. They want to figure out if you really need that money and how much, and, you know, and voilà. So the awards, you know, the figures, technically speaking, is from $6,000 to $50,000. I would like to just make a comment on that. Is that for the last at least 6 years, the major award called the Open Doors Award has not been given to a single project, but to 2 projects. So then it has been split, okay? So I would say really that the maximum you can get, frankly speaking, is much more 30,000. But still, from 6 to, you know, 30,000 is already something. And it means that if we have 4 awards, half of the projects can come back home, you know, with something. So it's a very high percentage because, you know, There is not another single other, co-production platform where you can get that chance of coming back with some money. Is it more or less clear for all of you? Yeah? Okay. So we're moving to the lab. The lab is a bit different. You are less exposed in the sense that it's business, but you don't come, really with what I was saying, something at stake, really you are trying to find money for a project. The lab is much more, it's supposed to be intended to producers, but we know also that there are lots of filmmakers, producing their own films, and sometimes possibly maybe helping some other, filmmakers. So the lab is also open to filmmakers who produce their own films, okay? And the idea is, I would say, at two levels. Is depending if you have been ready to, film school or academy on the production side, is to help you improve your producing skill. And what it is to be a good producer. You might be a good filmmaker, but to be a good filmmaker and a good producer, that's quite challenging, okay? So, to really guide you how to be a stronger producer and to be able maybe to switch hats more easily between, okay, that's an issue I have to solve as a filmmaker or much more as a producer. And sometimes it's not always that easy to switch hats, okay? And the other dimension, obviously, because we are in Europe, is try to better grasp, the international market, okay? How do we work in Europe? How do we work in Europe in terms of production? Because if you are looking for a partner in terms of production, a co-producer, it's important that you understand how, French, Swiss, or German producer works to really have a good collaboration. And also, to have a better understanding of the market, how films are being distributed, how it works, voila. And so it's much more a workshop. It means that there will be, there are 8 professionals being together, but with at least the same number of other professionals. And there are lots of discussions, There are lectures like mine, but much more interactive because it's a small group. We have lots of case studies of film. So last year we had a case study on a Nepalese film, Kalopoti, with the, the director, Minba Durbam, and the 2 co-producers from Germany and France, this kind of thing. So we try to make it very practical. Yes?
I don't understand the difference between Open Doors Hub and Open Doors Lab. Are these the same 8 projects that are going to go to the Open Doors Lab, the same in the hub and the same in the lab? They're different 8 projects?
Alors, it all depends on your project and where you stand and what you're looking for. Basically, if you think that you have a project which is strong enough to get partners in, and this is your main intention is to get partners, then you should go with the projects to the hub. Now, if your objective, on one side, maybe your project is not mature enough, because sometimes if it's not so clear in your mind where you're going and with who, with which country, or how you want to finance the film, the people are going to feel it right away when you're going to have the one-to-one meetings. They're like, well, she doesn't know exactly where she wants to go, So then it's really difficult for a partner to join forces to, to be your partner, if they have the feeling that it is not so clear, So, and the lab, as I was saying, it's a workshop. So a workshop means, on one side, it's a really purely business, in a way. You're making business. Okay, that's my film. Do you want to invest in my film? Open Doors Lab is much more that you're with, some other filmmakers, producers, with some professionals, and we are discussing about what it means to be, a producer, the work between the filmmaker and the producer, how to finance films, how can I, get more financing, get financing from Europe or from international funds, or distribution, to have my film. I want my next films to travel worldwide,
Open Doors Lab does not kind of give the funding, but the Open Doors Hub gives the funding to make the film.
Yes.
Okay, cheers.
And otherwise, in terms of, if you intend to apply and you are not really sure which one is best for you, you can apply to both. Tashi, for example, we had example from last year. People who had been selected sometimes, you know, they apply for 2, and depending on the competition, I mean, because we are all competing, there was many other projects. So we had a discussion, and then we called, you know, the filmmakers back, and we said, we think that the best platform for you might not be the hub, but more the lab. And we were discussing, what do you think? Do you think it will be okay for you? And that's how we did it, you know, last year. But basically, for the hub, the project should be more developed, and, you know, for the lab, it can be much more early stage. Maybe you do not have any script at the lab. You have an idea, and you have maybe a synopsis, 1-page synopsis, and that's it, you know?
If we have a ready script, so we should go for the hub.
Yes.
Okay, cheers.
Any other question at this stage? Nope. So to answer your question regarding the completed films, so that's the open door screenings. Very important, as I said earlier, if you have a brand new film this year, it's better to submit the film to the festival. It's 2 different selection committees, okay? Why? Because it's a brand new film that the open door screenings is not a competitive section, so it means that you cannot win any award with cash or no cash, but you cannot win anything, you know? And for a premiere of a film, we think that it's better to have it, you know, in the festival, okay? So the open door screenings is much more a selection of films that we do over the countries in focus. So that will be Pakistan and also Afghanistan, Sri Lanka. So it means that for Pakistan, we will be selecting like most probably 3 feature-length films. I forgot to mention one point, is that for all activities, Locarno is much more on fiction films, okay? But we also accept documentaries, and we had a documentary from Pakistan last year, for example. So, you know, creative documentaries are eligible. So for the screenings, that's the same. We are doing a selection, our own selection of films. So for Pakistan, it will be most probably 3 feature-length fictions or documentaries and short films. We're really interested also in, you know, introducing new filmmakers. So I really encourage, you know, to submit also short films. But it can be, I would say, that we're looking for films much more over the last maybe 15 years. Voilà. There is no real criteria, you know, it's all open in a way. So you can just submit the films, and then it will be our own idea by the end of what kind of images, let's say, of those countries in focus, like, you know, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, we would like to share with the audience, you know. So, of course, we know the audience in Locarno. You have to know that in Locarno, the positioning is more on art film than on mainstream commercial films. But we know also that you are talented, you know, to make to make kind of what for us is more mainstream film, you know, or entertaining film, but, you know, with good filmmaking, you know. I mean, at least I would say in terms of cinematography, or, you know, the style of the filmmaker, you know, if we think this is something which, if your filmmaking can really interest, you know, our audience, because we know our audience, you know, we'll take it, even if it might be more commercial than usually what we screen at Open Doors. But there is no criteria. It's all open regarding topics. I was saying, you know, documentaries or fictions. I don't think we had any animation so far, but, you know, why not? It could be a family film. It could be, you know, where it's all open. Yes, okay.
Yeah, she will just say. I just asked chat that Sophie add something about how the Swiss people are looking at films, because we normally have original language when you are going to cinema, and they are just subtitled. And Sophie will explain you something about the additional possibility to go to Locarno invited for observing, but she will tell you.
Yep, thank you, Stephanie. This is a very good point. All professional activities are done in English, okay? So you need to have a good understanding of that language and to express yourself. We could always have translators, you know, but you know, the thing is that, okay, first it's kind of intensive days, and also, you know, at the end of each day we have what we call happy hours, you know, kind of networking moments with people of the industry. So it's true that, you know, we do it in English. In terms of, you know, the language of the film, so indeed, as Stephanie says, you know, in Switzerland we are used to, you know, to screen the film in their original language, and this is an international film festival. So, you know, regarding the language of the film, this is the language in which you have shot the film. And then in terms of, you know, subtitles, it depends what kind of material you have. First of all, you know, we, I mean, encourage, you know, DCP. We can still screen 35 millimeter, but I think it will be much more now with DCPs, but just in case. And then the subtitles, it will be great already if you have, of course, English subtitles. Or, you know, otherwise we take some other European language. It all depends. Regarding the open door screenings, it all depends if you are, you know, maybe a distributor in one country, if it has been going internationally, and you have maybe a French subtitle print. Otherwise, I mean, all this can be discussed with us because we have some budget, you know, for the technical part, okay? So, for example, last year we had, I was mentioning, you know, we had the young filmmakers coming from Bhutan, and there has no DCP, and, you know, and in fact, we decided to invest in the DCP because we thought that it was, because we wanted the film. And then we thought that, you know, it could be an investment in a way. Then they could have the DCP, and possibly, you know, the film could travel even to other festivals. So indeed, we have a budget for that, so that's a good point. But you should let us know, indeed, you know, what kind of material you can deliver, you know, to us. And then, you know, the other possibilities, yes. The thing is that this is really the main professionals we are inviting, you know. So the filmmakers, the producers, on the hub side, for each project, we can invite up to 2 persons per project, the filmmaker and the producer. For sure, we need to have the filmmaker. If the filmmaker cannot come, we don't select the project. Then if there is no producer, or the producer cannot come, and you have somebody else of the team, we can consider the person depending really on the role of the person. But basically, we cover most part of the cost for 2 people. I didn't say what we cover, so basically we cover most part of it, in the sense that we cover the long distance flight from here to, in fact, to Italy, because the most international airport is the Milano airport. And then, of course, the transfer, we have shuttles of the festival and so on. We cover the accommodation. We have lunches every day all together, the delegation, and we give also voucher for the meals in the evening. So, you know, and of course you have a badge, you know, an accreditation, a badge to access any screening. And really Locarno, I think, is a great place for you as filmmakers. This is very important to get inspiration, you know, from other filmmakers and films, because, you know, it's very easy to go and screen a film. You have the badge, and with the badge, you enter any screening, okay? So depending on the schedule you will have, and we are going to adapt the program this year, because to my opinion, there was not enough time for films, you know? So we're going to structure the content differently so that you have more time to enjoy the festival and see more films. But as we were saying earlier this morning, it's true that we have films, you know, from the morning, from 9 a.m. till midnight, you know. So it's really all day long, the films. So the observers, yeah. So we invite mostly filmmakers, producers, okay, that's clear. Then we can also have indeed a couple seats for observers, what we call observers. So it's, you know, professionals who can also be active players, you know, in the industry here, you know. So it can be sometimes, you know, people who are involved in a theater, you know, I mean, distributing film, exhibiting films, as launch as part of a festival, for example. So all what contribute to, you know, the visibility of the film in Pakistan, mostly. Now, maybe you are doing another job, and you think that what you're doing is important, you know, for your industry, for your film community and film world here. And we can say, Stephanie, we are quite open, you know. Voilà. So, you know, you can always make suggestions to us. Maybe to have a kind of a small break, because I talk. Maybe we can, I can show you a small film we shot last year in Locarno, just to give you an atmosphere of Open Doors. If it's fine with you, yeah? Okay. So I don't know if you can have the video, yeah? So it's basically all the teams who came last year for Open Doors. You will see leaving their countries and arriving in Locarno, having the meetings, the screenings, and so on. It's short, huh? 3 minutes. Locarno train station.
It's about heart.
Dreams,
Cats.
Phallus,
Repression.
Friendship,
nature,
Poetry.
life.
That's the hub.
Passion.
Networking.
Voilà, voilà. It's just a flavor of open doors, huh? Not so much of the landscape, but next time I'll come back with some images of Locarno. So if we can go to the next slide. So it's more or less what you have seen. Maybe we can go on. That's just pictures of basically of the locations we have. That's the lab. So you see, this was a small group of people, and we're having like kind of, very interactive discussions. Next one. So the screenings, as you could see in the film, we were really pleased because it was the first year that there was so many bookings, for our screenings, several of them were entirely sold out, and we had to add a second screening. So this is a screening room that we have every day. It's a capacity of 450 seats. And the gentleman which is in the middle, Paolo, he was supposed to come to Pakistan, but he could not make it. But he told me last night that he was really sorry not to be here and that he would definitely come. He's a great person because he's a festival programmer, and voila. And in fact, he's the curator for the screenings. So we decided about the selection together and with our artistic director, Carlos Chatrian. And then he's introducing every film, with the filmmaker. Here it was the film from Burma, The Monk, with Temoneng on the side. And he's doing, a Q&A after the film. But he's a very lovely person, so it's easy also for the Q&A. That's nice. Next one. So now we are getting a bit more about the application. Maybe we should put the light on again, no? Because I don't see you anymore, and that's kind of strange for me. Can we have the light? The light is back. Okay. So it's just to give you an idea of what happened last year, if you want to apply. So we selected, as you know, 8 projects, 8 people for the lab, and basically we received more than 100 applications. So of course it's competitive. So I think last year we had about, if I remember well, around 10 applications from Pakistan, and I hope we'll have many more, especially because you have the lab last year, you could not access the lab. Next slide. Voila, so we said it already, you know it by heart now, 8 and 8. Next one. So last year we had just one Pakistani project, a documentary, and yes.
Sorry, just to repeat. Actually, there were 2 selected, a Pakistani. One got the visa, and the other one was just too late. So one thing is the application to enter the competition in that lab. The other thing is then that you go really in time with all your papers needed to the embassy for the visa.
Yeah, it's true that last year, thank you, Stephanie, we had an issue with the visa for Pakistan. For Pakistani filmmakers, so it's really important. Basically, the application deadline for this year, as is written on the flyer, is the 7th of February. So, and this is a very deadline. It's online. I'm going to give you some details, and then you will know about the selection by mid-April. So when we call you, and if it's a yes, indeed, then we are really to work very efficiently together so that we can make you come, That was the team from last year, Marine and Madia, having, the meetings at the hub. Maybe the next one. Voilà. So I don't know if you have any question at this stage, or if we can talk much more about the application. If it's fine with you, that I just give you, I would say, some tips, or already tell you how it works. Yes, tell me, Stephanie. Keep the mic.
No, I just try to, it's only 1 year I'm here, but I guess to feel some of what you have to know.
Yes, of course.
So just what you're saying now, is it the same application form you have to fill in when you already have a film, or it's only for the open door?
Alors, for the completed films, for the open door screenings, there is no application to fill in. Basically, you write to me, or you will see on the flyer, you have also the email address of Open Doors. You can write to Open Doors, general address of Open Doors, or to my address. I can give it to you. And basically, you say, OK, I have a short film, and you just submit the film. There is no submission fee for Open Doors. It's all free. So all of you can submit a film to Open Doors. And in fact, the deadline of the 7th of February, it's a good point, is not for the films. So we have more time, okay? I would say the sooner the better, because we're already discussing films now. So I will recommend not to send us films after the end of February. Again, it's supposed for open door screenings not to be brand new films. So it's about completed films. Huh? So basically, there is no application form. It's just you send us an email, and then, usually if you send us a link, it's probably the easiest thing, because there are several of us, who need to screen the films. And now the application form is for the two professional activities, in the sense, the hub and the lab. Basically, the application form is a bit simpler for the lab, because the lab is less focused on the project itself. The lab is more focused on you as a person, okay? So, of course, for the hub, because there is you plus the producer plus the project, there are also elements that we need on the projects. And this is also at this level that it can be sometimes challenging. I don't know how many of you have already done a kind of international application, written application, for a project. I don't know how many of you, if you are a bit familiar, not so much. Basically, I would say there is a technical part. We can go through it quickly, which is kind of easy, I mean, if we start about CVs, it's kind of easy, okay? You send your CV. Usually what I suggest, if you send, information about yourself, if this is a project and you have to send information about the filmmaker and the producer, so you have two CVs, I will recommend not only to send a technical CV, with your picture, when you were born, raised, and, you've been to this school, blah, 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 but maybe to write a few lines like a biography. Why? Just because, first of all, you have to figure out that we are going to read more than probably 100 applications, okay? We have some weeks to read that, but it's a lot, okay? Each time we have to switch team and so on, okay? So try to be very clear, concise, not to write pages and pages of CVs, what you think is the most important about yourself, or about your producer, or about the project, okay? And try also to bear in mind that, okay, if you're a first-timer, you're a first-timer, but maybe you have done films here which have been successful, but maybe, not everybody knows you internationally, okay? And even we have a committee, a selection committee, and maybe some of our readers and, jury selection committee members do not know you as a person, for sure, but maybe not as a filmmaker also. So try to bear in mind that the person who is reading the application do not know you, and try to, introduce yourself in the most seducing way. And I was saying that a biography, to my opinion, is important, because when we start reading the application, okay, we say, oh, okay, the application is coming from, for example, last year, Madiha and Mahino. Okay, I do not know them, you know. I look at their CV. If I have just a CV with the name of the person and, you know, the school where they have been, okay, I know that they have been maybe to NCA, and okay, we know the reputation of the school, and you know, okay, that's maybe something, okay? But we want to get to know the person better, to get closer to the person, you know? So, you know, this is why in a biography, you can share more about, you know, maybe sometimes important things of your life, you know? You're going to shoot a film in this part of Pakistan. I don't know why, because maybe it's your original region, village, or, you know, maybe something important happened in your life which took place there, you know. That can be important elements, or maybe your tastes, or, you know, voilà. It's just you know, I would say an advice, because I could feel last year that sometimes it was something which was missing, you know, a bit. And of course, as I was saying, you know, it has to be complementary between what you write in the CV and the bio. Well, for the producer, the track record of the films, that's easy. Now, the synopsis. Now we're getting to, I think, really important elements. I think because it depends on the countries, your level of English, I think, is much stronger than, you know, obviously than in other countries where very often they were not having English at school or not studying English or anything. So I think the language itself, I think the English language should be less of a problem. But it's not only the language, you know, it's also what you write in a synopsis, you know. I would say, you know, for the synopsis, don't write more than 2 pages, you know, 1 to 2 pages depending on the, you know, on the story. And, you know, in a synopsis, you do not, it depends, but the way we like it very often in Europe, you do not have to necessarily tell the whole story from A to Z. You know, you can, yes, give an idea, of course, a very precise idea of the structure of the story, where it takes, very important. Again, you have to understand, to bear in mind that the people are reading lots of applications, you know. So very simple, but when you start a synopsis, please tell us where it takes place. Because, okay, you're a filmmaker from here, but maybe your film, I mean, I suppose your film will take place in Pakistan, but yesterday I was discussing with a filmmaker from Lahore, and the film is going to be shot between Pakistan and Germany, okay? So, for example, that is important, you know, so you said at the beginning, you know, for example, Pakistan, Islamabad, okay. Then, is it today, or was it 20 years ago, or, you know, so maybe put a date so that we know where the story takes place at the beginning and when. This is minimum. Same thing about the characters, you know. Okay, in your story there might be, you know, of course, several characters. I think it's kind of nice. It can be a bit technical for you, but if you mention a character for the first time in your synopsis, you know, for us it's important to figure out if it's a male or a female, because sometimes, I'm sorry, but in Europe, we're not so used, maybe, you know, with the first names, and sometimes we're not sure, you know, and the age, you know, just, you know, is it a child, teenager, is it, you know, a 30 or 50 years old person, and so on, just at the beginning, and then, you know, and of course, who is the character, but, you know. So again, you know, I think, yes, Stephanie? What the topics or the...
in the evening yesterday, you made a wonderful example how it should not be. If you're asking, I have a wonderful story. What about this war? But what? So please, perhaps you can make...
Indeed, the thing is that to us, there is a difference between the synopsis and the director's statement, you know. The synopsis should be really about the story of your film. Okay, so it's not just the topic. You might have a very important topic. So as I was telling you, indeed, Stephanie, a few weeks ago, I was in Colombo, Sri Lanka, okay, and I was meeting for, it was my 10th meeting, and it was, again, you know, a film on the war. And, you know, so the filmmaker was, you know, you know, he was thinking he was telling me the story, but in fact he was explaining me the story, I mean, you know, much more the history, okay? And he was talking about the topic. And then I said, okay, fine. But, you know, can you tell me more about the story? He said, I said it, okay, that's a film about war. I said, yeah, but you're at least the 10th filmmaker, you know, telling a story about the war. So now I want to understand who is the main character. You know, you're telling a story for an audience like you now, okay? The film is going to be screened in the cinema, okay? Who is the main character? You know, is he a teenager? Is it, you know, who is that, you know? And I want to understand the journey. So the synopsis is really the journey of your characters, you know? We say very often, I suppose in your films, most of films I've seen is much more character-driven, you know? Okay, and usually, you know, the film is much more seen maybe through the eyes of one person, okay? So who is the main character? The main character at the beginning of a story. What is the situation of the main character at the beginning? And what is the situation of the character at the end, you know? And then, so the synopsis should give us an idea of the structure, you know? Because usually the structure in the film, of course, there can be more or less actions. It doesn't mean necessarily it can be an action film. Huh? It can be a thriller or I don't know. Okay, really action, but it can be also, there can be ups and downs, dramatically speaking, much more in terms of emotions, you know, because cinema is a lot about emotions too. So when we read you know, a synopsis, we need to have an idea of what's happening to the characters. It might be an active character, okay? So there's an action, or it might be a more passive character, but he's going through some things, you know, on the maybe psychological side, you know. I don't know, maybe the main character is losing his wife, and, you know, and then, you know, it's a dramatic story. So how does he cope with this situation? He's losing his wife, and, you know, and then what happens, you know? So so on one side you have really the story, which is on the synopsis, okay? And then you have the director's statement, and the director's statement is complementary. Then you say, why this topic, you know, because very often when we had, you know, indeed projects coming from here, that was a strong topic. That was a strong topic. So you can speak at this, in the director's statement about the topic. What is the topic and why? Why this topic? You know, why have you chosen this topic? Why is it important to you? We are really interested in understanding why you want to make this film. As a filmmaker, very often, obviously, is something close to your heart. I mean, if you're telling a story, it's not just by chance, you know. It's lots of work to make a film. So you have necessarily a strong motivation for that. And we have to feel, because that's what is going to make the difference. You know, when I was saying I have 10 films about the war in Sri Lanka, okay, which one were, okay, this is a very important topic, we would like, okay, to bring maybe a subject about that, but why does it make it a film? It can be maybe an interesting book, but maybe not, you know, an interesting film. Because that is, you don't tell a story the same way as you know on the screen that in a book, okay? This is cinema, okay? So we have to feel, you know, the emotions and your motivations, you know? And of course, in the director's statement, you know, what is very important to us is how you're going to make this film, not only technically speaking. So you can indeed, you know, it's very often, though it is linked, you know, the camera maybe you're going to use, but the style, how is going to look like, you know? Again, it all depends on where you stand in your career. If you're, you know, a first-timer, a more established person, when you apply, when you do the application, we're going to ask you to make a selection of your films, okay? So you have to send us links of your previous work, okay? So we are going to screen, I don't know if you had done already feature films or short films, so we are going to read, you know, your material about your new project after having screened your films, okay? So maybe it's important that in the director's statement, for example, you tell us compared to, for example, the films you have already done, you know, the style of your film. Will you be, you know, the same, kind of same atmosphere or not? Maybe you have explored, you know, a certain style and you want to go a different way, or, you know, the how is really important to us, okay? Then, of course, if you have a producer, I'm saying that because, you know, that's what we've read last year, you know. Sometimes we had a kind of copy-paste. So please avoid, you know, copying, pasting things. Like sometimes we have the same, you know, paragraph about the topics everywhere, you know. Like in the synopsis, in the director's statement, and again in the producer's statement, the same paragraph about the main topic, you know. Voilà. Okay, once is enough. Or if, of course, we understand this is definitely an important subject for the whole team, not only for the filmmaker, but for the producer, because for us it's important to understand why the producer, you know, this other person is collaborating with the filmmaker. But it should be then the motivation of the producer. He's a different person. So I also want to understand why he or she has decided, you know, to join the filmmaker to make that film, okay? And maybe your producer can also explain more how they work together, you know, with the filmmaker. And of course, any other, you know, production details, you know. The filmmaker can speak in the director's note about his style, how he's going to shoot, you know, what will be the atmosphere of the film, maybe also about the actors, if you have ideas, you know, will it be real actors or non-actors, you know, and, you know, I don't know. The producer, it could be more, I would say, production details, okay? It's also, the producer is someone who is going to, you know, to support the filmmaker, you know, to bring the project, you know, on the business side, you know. So what is your strategy? How are you planning, you know, to position the film, you know? So you can speak about what kind of film it is, you know. You can say, is it much more an action film, or is it a drama, or is it a family film, or I don't know, so that we have an idea of where we stand. But this is, again, the vision of the producer on the film they are going to make, you know, with the filmmaker. You can speak maybe about certain challenges you have. Okay, the filmmaker wants to shoot in this region. It's going to be a very complex shoot, but, you know, we are going to have good technicians, and, you know, any element you think might be important. And of course, you're applying to an international initiative, okay? If you come to Locarno, is to find possible foreign partners, okay? So why? So why are you coming to Locarno? I suppose that, you know, is part of your plan. So you can say, maybe it's just that you want to explore the possibilities, you know, internationally speaking. Or yesterday I was discussing with the filmmaker from Lahore. Part of the film is going to be shot in Germany, okay, in Berlin. So, okay, it makes sense, okay? I need to find a partner in Germany. So, you know, for me, it will be the ideal thing, open doors and say, okay, fine, you know. So, you know, this kind of information, this is much more the producer, you know, who is going to give it than the director. I was just writing a small thing, but it's true that, you know, if you talk about the topic for us, it's more important to understand why it is important for you. Why is it important for Pakistan to tell this story? Why you think this story might be important, you know, to bring it internationally speaking. But please do not use the word universal. This is a universal topic, you know. It's just something we don't like at all. So just try to avoid that word. Is it clear? Yeah? Yeah? So maybe we can go to the next one. We give also the possibility for the filmmakers to bring some more elements on the visual side. And you are free to do it the way you wish, okay? So it can be just that you explain more your vision as a director, or you can add something visual, okay? So it's all open. I mean, you can, it can be photographs, it can be a small film. Yesterday I met some filmmakers who told me, okay, Sophie, you know, can I send you a small video? I mean, we're doing a kind of trailer or something. Is it possible? I said, yes, of course. This is your responsibility and your decision. If you think that is really going to help us to better understand what kind of film you want to make. It could be just about the location, because of course we are back in Europe when we read your application, and you want to really give us a very concrete idea of the location, the atmosphere of the place, or I don't know, or different locations, you know, because there will be maybe different, yes, energies, you know. There might be a city part, a much more rural part, or, you know, or sometimes, you know, I would say the scenery or certain location is almost a character in the film. It all depends, but, you know. So you are really free to use any material you want for that. It can be a storyboard or a mood board. You know, it's really open. And then much more on the business side, about money. It's really important because last year, not from your country though, so I think you're more used to that, but sometimes people were mixing up the two things between budget and financing. So it's clear, you know, the budget is, you know, basically you have to tell us more or less how much the film is going to cost, okay? For us, it would be better if we could have the budget in euros or in US dollars, okay? Otherwise, we will do the conversion. But again, you know, when you have 100 applications, it's better if we have at least maybe in dollars, US dollars. So globally, how much the film is going to cost, to give us a range, you know, and then the structure, you know, where you go, I mean, on which, you know, budget line, what are the budget line, the main budget line, just on one page, huh? We do not need like a 6-page budget. It doesn't need to be that detailed, but just to give us an idea also, because it gave us an idea of the reality here, you know. Your reality is different here from France, from Myanmar, or, you know. So for us, it's interesting also, because we can also see, you know, where are the main costs for you, you know. So that's the budget, that's one thing. And then is, where do you think you're going to find the money to make the film happen, okay? So last year we had teams who had problems to really make you know, what we call a financing plan, sorry, with different lines, okay? And to put figures and names of, you know, of partners. It's a financing plan, okay? So it doesn't mean that, of course, all these partners have already said yes, okay? So you can say, this is our strategy. You know, we are planning to finance the film that way, you know? And you said, you know, this amount of money may be out of Pakistan, or maybe from another, I don't know, Asian country, or, you know, and then you can say, if there's already some financing which is being confirmed, you can say already confirmed, so that we see that it's confirmed. Or it's just, you know, your plan, and that's fine because it's called a financing plan. It's not, your project is in development, so it's fine. Now, if writing a financing plan for you is a bit tricky, you know, then because it's not that clear yet for you, who might be, you know, the partners, I don't know, it depends maybe on the project. You can always write a few lines explaining your strategy. Then do not call it financing plan, but you can call it financing strategy. The objective for us is just to understand more or less how you're going to finance it, how much from here, and how much basically you need from elsewhere. You are planning to Open Doors, which is an international co-production platform. So it means, otherwise you do not apply, that you are looking for money abroad, okay? But where? No, that filmmaker I met yesterday, and he was saying, okay, part of the film is going to be shot in Germany, so obviously Germany will be part of his financing plan, okay? But is he really need 20% of the budget, 40%, 60%? No clue, you know? And again, your reality here is different from the other countries you are going to read, you know? So we just want to know, what is your dream, you know? If your dream is trying to raise 40% of the budget abroad, okay, we have an idea of what you are aiming at, because our objective will be to try to help you to reach it, you know? So we just want to, yeah, to have an idea, you know, when we read your project. It's not to, we are not going to call all the companies behind to figure out if, you know, it's just to give us an idea. Is it clear, the budget and financing plan, or do you have questions? Okay. Then the next one is very important, of course, is the treatment or script. So if you want to submit, I would say ideally that it's better to send a script in English. We read only in English, okay? Why? Because you have the whole story. And with the other elements we have talked about already, like the director's note and so on, we have more details. So we can really, when we read the story, we can already see almost the film on the screen, okay? But we have the whole story. So it's, for us, we can better figure out if we think this is a story which can really interest, the professionals who will be in Locarno and an international audience. A treatment, it depends, we always think that a treatment is a very challenging piece to write. Some people are good at it, and some other are not as good, So it all depends. Again, this is your decision, and it depends where you stand on, on your project. Does everybody know what a treatment is, by the way, or is it clear for everybody, a treatment, or, yeah? Okay, great. And I think I said it already before, the production schedule. If you don't want to frighten Europeans and the selection committee, please do not say that you're going to shoot the film before the dates of Locarno. So you are not shooting before August. And as I said, I think it will be better not to shoot before the year after. Okay, now I'm not going to ask you to cheat. The thing is that, for your information, last year we had different cases. We had, for example, we gambled on someone from Sri Lanka. She had already shot the film. 95% was shot already. And in fact, we realized that, Locarno was not the best platform for films which are already completed, and to then try to get the financing to finish the film for post-production. As I said earlier, it's not that easy. There's not so much money around for that. So I don't think it has been that beneficial for her. She had interesting feedback, though, on the artistic side, because she came with the kind of the material that she had, and some professional could look at the footage. So, they gave some feedback, about the footage. But financially speaking, I think she's still struggling right now to try to finish the film. So even if in the regulations of Open Doors, you can apply with a film which is already usually partially shot, for fictions at least, I will not recommend it. And I'm not sure we will select again a fiction film which is already shot. Now, for example, for the project we had from Pakistan last year, Maïn et Madira had already shot part of it, because this is a documentary which is being shot on several years, okay? So, for example, when they came to Locarno, they had already some footage to show to the people. And I think that was a plus, because the people could project themselves in the type of film they wanted to make, but it was only a small piece of it, So, it was working. So I would say for the documentary, especially if you're shooting on, on the kind of long period, it can make sense. Otherwise not. And I think I've already explained you why, I don't think it's a good plan. Even to shoot in September. If you shoot in September, the people won't be able to raise the money for you for the shoot. Yes? Yes. If you have a treatment, it's fine. We need at least something longer than the synopsis. Voila. So it can be a treatment or a script. But if you have no script, no treatment, you cannot apply for the hub. But you can still apply for the lab, because for the lab it's much more your track record, why you want to do the lab. And you speak about your projects, but you don't need to attach a significant element regarding the story, But, it's fine. If you have the log line synopsis and the treatment, it's enough for us. And then, of course, it's just for the selection. And then if you're being selected, of course, if the script comes later and so on, you send it to us. And then, in fact, regarding the material that we dispatch to professionals, I forgot to say that we do a booklet, with all the projects, electronic version, which will be online. But we do also paper version for the people who come to Locarno. And because we do the selection before Cannes, we go to the Cannes Festival and Market, and we dispatch also the book of projects to people. We do mailings. We have a collaboration with the Cannes Market. So we, I do presentation during Cannes Markets about the projects, about open doors and so on. And they do also mailings, to promote the selection of open doors. So yes, so everybody, you have to know that every professional will come to Locarno for open doors, will have received and read the basic information. And what we publish is usually the synopsis, the director's and producer's note, and the basic CV information, production details, like when you're going to shoot, the amount of the budget, what kind of partners you're looking for in Locarno, and that's it. We do not publish, obviously the treatment and so on. Now, if people, because the way the meetings work for the hub is mostly the people asking meetings. They ask to meet you, for example, okay? But then if before you come to Locarno, because what we do with the team, and some consultants, professionals we have, we try to define a strategy, an action plan, in Locarno, because you come for some days, you're going to meet people, and you have an objective in mind. So having this objective in mind, okay, how can you reach this objective? So we try to have a strategy together and try to define who will be the key people to meet in Locarno, okay? Then we see, naturally, who are the people who are taking the meetings with you, okay? And then if we think that some interesting people have not taken meetings, we decide together, because of course we do not do it just ourselves. We call each team, and we look at the situation, and we said, okay, what do you think, and we discuss about it. Oh, I think there is not enough, international distributors. You're right, okay. So let's think, who could be interested by your story, And then, I pick up my phone, for example, and I used to be a sales agent, so I know many of them, and I call them, and I said, I don't know, Michael Weber from the Match Factory in Germany. Hi, Michael, okay, there's a great project coming from Pakistan. I don't know, you haven't taken any meeting with them. You should meet them. Okay, let's have a meeting with them. So we do it also, both ways. Just to say that, an important thing is also sometimes Michael might call me back and saying, I've read the material, but would it be possible to have something more? Is there a treatment? Is there a script? Is there a mood board or anything, And then we call you and we say, okay, these sales agents would like to have something more. Do you agree, if we send him information before Locarno? You all decide, because we know that this is, development stage is something particular, so this is how you feel about it, If you don't want to, you don't want to, and it will be later because you're rewriting the script and you don't want to send this version because it's not updated any longer, There's been some evolution and you prefer to speak to the people first and send a new version later, Okay? Basically for the application, so the application form is online, okay? The thing that I wanted to let you know, there are two different stages. Basically, the very first stage is a very basic thing. You indicate your name, if you want to do the hub, the lab, and and the name of the project. Okay, it's very simple. If you intend, if you know ready to apply to open doors, I suggest that you go very quickly in the next days, and you enter all this basic information. Why? Because it comes to our server, and we know that you intend to apply. Okay. And, in the team, there is another person, Sarah, who is the coordinator, and she's receiving all the information coming from the server. And she knows, okay, for example, you're entering the basic information. Oh, okay, that's information and so on. And then, you know, she will see if there is anything, if the application comes in, you know, the rest or not, and she will send you an email. I'm Sarah, I'm the coordinator, you know, very nice meeting you. I'm really happy that you're submitting a project on application. And then she said, is everything fine? When do you intend, you know? And then, you know, you have also to understand that even if we are a competitive co-production platform, our wish is to have, you know, the maximum of, you know, projects and try to have the maximum of, for example, Pakistani filmmakers and producers coming. So, you know, if we can be of any help, advice, or anything, you know, that's what we try to do. So there is communication before. We're not cheating. It's just that, you know, if you tell us, you know, you say that, you know, I don't know, a synopsis should be 4 pages long. Mine is 3 pages. What do you think? You know, and you're telling, voila, this kind of thing. So there are 2 stages. The first one is very simple, and then the next one, you have to be ready, basically, to attach all the elements, okay? So there are some additional information that you have to fill in, you know, like already the budget, or, you know, if you have already some co-producers, and then you have to attach the elements, you know, the CVs, the director's note, and so on. So you have to be ready with the elements. You can, so anyway, you're doing the first part, then you're going to receive an email saying, okay, you are being registered in the Open Doors server, okay? And this, we are sending you the link now to do the application, the full application, okay? So now you can enter the link, you can open the link, sorry, and you can have a look at it, and you see, you know, what are the details. And if there are you have some questions, then you send an email to Open Doors or Sarah, and it's on the, our email address is later, and then she can guide you, okay? I'm saying much more Sarah than I, because I travel quite a lot, so she will be, I think, much more reactive than me. I don't know if you have any other question, yeah?
Commercial viability a concern, especially with, I mean, in Pakistan, we're beginning to see a film audience. So whether or not a film has the potential to have a wide release across Pakistan, is that something when you're looking to select a project, is that something that?
Sorry, you said the side of the release, or you said I could not hear you very well.
Commercial viability, like how
yes.
well a film is going to be received in its country of origin by the local audiences.
I would say, you know, because you're applying to an international platform, so our main aim is trying to figure out what are the projects which might travel much more abroad. Of course, I mean, we'll be, you know, really pleased if the film, you know, does well also at home. But, you know, we know sometimes it depends on the stories. Sometimes you have stories, you know, we had a Nepalese filmmaker, you know, did a Kalopoti. Kalopoti, The Black Hand, for example, was a big success, was the biggest Nepalese box office for a film, okay, for Nepalese film. And it has done quite well on the international scene, not only in festival, but also in certain countries where it has been released. So it was kind of success story on both sides. But even, you know, famous filmmakers, I remember when I started, you know, to work, I don't know, with Michael Haneke from Austria, you know, for example. He was doing good box office abroad, but not at home. That's the same for Open Doors. I mean, we want to, we're interested in talent. So if we believe in someone, we believe in a filmmaker, we think that is an important, significant, well, filmmaker, we want to highlight that person and that story. And we believe in that story. If we select that story that we believe in it, we think this is an important story to be told, okay? And especially it needs to have for us, I mean, when we read it, we think that it has a certain potential internationally speaking. Because otherwise, if we think that as known, you will not be able to appeal to people when you meet them, you know. But, voila. So it's not a criteria. the success, possible success, I mean, viability or possible success of the film here, because we'll be pleased if it does also, but yes, I don't know which one. Yes. Yes, as I said earlier, first because maybe you might be interested in the two initiatives. Maybe, it's what happened last year. We had filmmakers that were like, okay, I have a project. At the same time, the lab, it sounds interesting, because I would like also to know more about the international, world and also regarding, I would like to meet also, European producers to compare our way of working and, and it has happened, I won't say names because some of them were sometimes quite famous already in their countries. But some of them apply to both. And for example, some of them had been selected at the lab and not at the hub because we thought, that the project was not mature enough, regarding the story, for example. It was not that developed, It was okay. But for us, it was not that convincing, the story. So we said, okay, it's too early to expose the story, but we knew that the filmmaker was great, and he was already producing younger filmmakers besides. So for us, it was making sense, So yes.
So my question is, what advice would you give to the young filmmakers in Pakistan, especially the indie filmmakers? Like when I shared my first script with a friend, his first advice was to go for the idea that the world want to see in Pakistan, like extremism or some other social issues. So, and we see that as an evidence that mostly the social issues based documentaries or films are selected. Is it perhaps the Western audience wants to see those issues, or like my script, which I recently shot, it is a script that can be shot in any country, in any circumstances, in any culture. So it's not specific to Pakistani culture or any. So is it something that we should strive, like purely from something new from filmmaking point of view, but nothing regarding the culture or the local things that the Western audience wants to see?
Yeah, that's a good point. Alors, it's true that on one side, I would say that what is very important for us is indeed the filmmaker and the art form, because Open Doors is also a way for us to discover new talents. At the same time, it's a combination because for Open Doors, the idea is also to give a certain diversity of images of the various cultures of the countries in focus. So I would say it's a balance between the two. You know what? It all depends on the projects we're going to receive. It's very difficult to say. I would say everything is possible, but if you're telling me that the story can take place anywhere, I'm not so sure, because we need to, for Open Doors, there should be a strong identity. Maybe it could be a story of Pakistani people, who have left the country, for example, or, and maybe part of the film will be shot elsewhere, But if it has nothing special, I would say, I'm sorry, your filmmaking can be special, but there is no special route to your country, I'm not so sure it will be selected. I cannot say a definite no, but we take only 8 projects, and I'm pretty sure we might find, another for us promising talent, and the story which is more linked to your country. So you could always have a try, but.
So my second question is, how probable is it to meet a producer with the screening at the Locarno?
Sorry, the beginning.
How probable it is to meet a producer for my next project? For example, if I screen my film there, and how probable is it to meet a producer for the next, not in the hub, I'm talking about the screening.
Okay. The probabilities, the opportunities you will have to meet people and so on? Yeah?
Yes. After the screening, how probable is it to meet new filmmakers and new producers, new
that's a very good
collaborators?
point.
Yes.
No, it's a very good point because that's something I want to improve on our side, in our job. There are things we do quite well and things you need to improve. So, yeah, I mean, last year it's true that the filmmakers were just a bit by themselves. I mean, by themselves, no, because there's a team and we were around. But, we thought that, okay, they come with a film, showing at the open door screenings, and of course there's a presentation of the film and so on. But then, they were not really part of the program, as you say, And then we have realized that in fact, it would have been nice not to have a very structured thing, but maybe to have someone, to guide them, or what we did already spontaneously. That we invited, the filmmakers, at the screenings to join certain sessions or discussions, And then what we did also, like 2 weeks before the festival, because of course I was in touch, with the filmmakers, and I said, but what's up? Okay, you haven't submitted any project, but would you like to meet some people? So what we did, in fact, is that. I don't know if you saw, but we had a venue which was a kind of open-air venue on the terrace, and the meetings were taking place outside, And we just added some tables, and there was, for example, from Bangladesh, there was Farouki, Mustafa Farouki, you might have heard, which made films like Television and so on. Or Nepalese filmmaker Deepak, at the White Sun, for example, in Toronto, and so on. We added, tables, and it was called a kind of a open doors club, and they could have meetings with people. So sometimes they organize their own meetings, and sometimes, they ask me, they say, well, Sophie, I will be interested in meeting these kind of people, can you help me a bit, meeting the people, and then, we managed to, organize some meetings. Now, apart from I would say, the scheduled meetings, what we do, I haven't stressed that, but as it was at the end of the film, the Burmese producer Tutu, she was saying it's all about networking. Open Doors is a lot about networking. So what we do, as I was saying earlier, we have lunches all together, but also the lunches, we share them with some guests. So we invite almost for every lunch about 40 different professionals. So producers, distributors, film funders, and so on. And also at the end of the day, after all the meetings or discussions and things, around 6:30, we have happy hours from 6:30 to 8, and we have drinks, with lots of professionals. And the professionals coming much more from the industry side, so it means producers, distributors, and also a selection of from the festival, like lots of festival directors, programmers, because we know it's important also. So there are definitely lots of opportunities to meet, but it's something we're going to work on.
Here I am. I'm a doctor by profession and public health activist. And I want to clarify here that I hope the word new filmmaker is not being used as synonym with the chronological age, because I think for any creativity or using any platform, chronological age does not matter. New filmmakers is probably, we are talking about the people who are new in filmmaking. Like, I'm a public health activist, and I find film as a very powerful medium to convey what I want to convey, right? Women rights or whatever. What I can write and people don't have the time to read like a book, I can just convey in maybe 20 minutes. Maybe I can convey in 60 seconds film. So maybe I need a clarification here that you encourage every chronological age as long as the project is interesting, the project is viable, like for a cause. Am I right? Not only young by age, but people who are entering the filmmaking.
Yeah, you're entirely right. No, it's a good comment. Yeah, I'm sorry for that. For example, I've never done any film, but I've been doing different type of jobs in the film industry. But even, you know, I could have been a doctor, and all of a sudden I'm 35, and I have the urgency to tell a story, to make a film.
This is what I was trying to clarify, because I was treating the patients, but I was not satisfied. Like, I'm treating one patient, and I was seeing so much of social things which are not being addressed when I'm treating the patient. I want to treat my society. I want to pick up the issues which need the debate. And where to spark the debate, probably a documentary or the film is the best medium, because that has an appeal. If you have the tight subject, you have the grasp on your indigenous problems, then probably you can fetch the internal audience and international as well. You become a global community. So I hope I'm right in pointing out that everybody is welcome at this platform, right?
Yes, sure, sure.
Thank you so
very much.
much.
And I think I said new talents, maybe I said young, but you know, the age has nothing to do with it. It's true that in certain co-production platforms though, or even in other initiatives I wanted to speak about, like at Ciné Fondation in Cannes, there is an age limit. It's not the case, but you are all open, definitely. Again, it's really a combination between topic, story, and filmmaking. So, you know.
So I have a question. Can one applicant pitch more than one proposals?
Haha. You mean for the application?
Yeah, for the proposal or for...
so like you want to apply with two different projects?
More than one, 2 or 3?
Oh la la. A very proactive person. Yes, it has happened to us. You are quite open, huh? So yes, it's possible. For us, you just have to know. It's just an advice. As a European, to read 3 applications, for example, by the same director is a kind of strange to us. Of course, no, it's very good to have different ideas and you're working on different projects, but for the hub, we think that it should be obvious that one of them is more advanced, or one of them has probably a better chance, you know, to make it to the international scene. In this case, I don't know, if your situation is you think you have like 2 or 3 projects advanced enough for the hub, and you do not know maybe which one has the most international appeal, maybe I would suggest to send us maybe a short email, and maybe that we can possibly discuss it. Technically speaking, it's open, so you can submit 3 applications if you wish, and then it will be our own decision. We have the case about out of the 100, I think we had 5 filmmakers last year who had applied with 2 or 3 applications.
So is there any limitation of duration of the film?
I was about to say that. There is no maximum. Now we have a minimum. For the feature length, because we're talking feature length films, is 70 minimum length.
Okay. 70 minutes.
70 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 hour and 10 minutes. I think I have a question. No? Okay, sorry. So.
Like documentary, drama, thriller, or comedy?
Wow. I was sure, Stephanie, that would be a tricky question. Frankly speaking, no, we don't. It's not that I'm not into statistics. It's just not the majority are again. First, there is no criteria or no.
The reason being is normally at film festivals, comedy is not taken as much as art films. So this is why I was questioning.
We open a long debate, I think. No, I'm kidding in the sense that, you know, originally I come from France, and, you know, for example, in the French industry, comedies almost since very recently has not been really recognized as almost an art, you know. We had wonderful filmmakers or actors who never got national awards because they were doing only comedies. And why? You know, this is still cinema. So basically, I would say that the majority, I can tell you, it's mostly drama, okay? Last year, we have read some, we almost selected one, but I think the project was too advanced already, in the sense that he was shooting during the summer. But a thriller, it could happen. And comedy, it all depends. You know, the only thing about comedies, you know, is not every style of comedy can travel, you know. So if we think that the sense of humor can really seduce a European audience, we could go for it. You know, because, you know, it's interesting.
It's about raising social issues, but you do it through a comedic way as well.
Exactly. No, but I entirely agree with you. So the treatment, I mean, you can talk about very important topics, but, you know, maybe with a lighter approach, you know, so that you can go into details or maybe touch the people differently. But I entirely agree with you. We had already the cases with, you know, films coming from elsewhere, from Israel, or sometimes the films can be very strong, but, you know, you have sometimes filmmakers who have a different approach. So I'm really open to that, and in fact, I can tell you that, you know, last year in Locarno, I had the comment by an international sales agent. He said, "Do you think, Sophie, we could have like a kind of comedy coming from this region?" You see? And I think so. I think there are really European professionals who are already trying to introduce, I mean, you know, different type of cinema, image of, because sometimes you have a kind of, you know, a global summary of, you know, what cinema of a country is, you know, like my husband has nothing to do with cinema, but when we first met, and he knew that I was French, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, you're French." And say, "Yeah, what's the problem?" And then he was like, "Oh, but you work in the film industry, it's even worse." And I said, "But why?" "Because you're doing only depressing films and only dramas." And I said, "That's not true." You know, I mean, French cinema can be much more diverse. So, you know, we'll be very happy to show the diversity of Pakistani cinema too, definitely.
Thank you.
And we didn't say it, but, you know, not talking about the open doors, but about the festival. We're talking about the open air screening, and it will be nice, for example, to have a Pakistani film. And as it is more, you know, for a wider audience, a more family audience, you know, it could be a more commercial film, but, you know, so yeah, it would be nice to have the diversity. I don't know how much time. I suppose we are done with time, no? Or it's just because I had some other slides, but much more about other initiatives, international initiatives, because open doors can be great, but there are also other places where you could go, depending on what you're interested in. Or we can just, or if you have questions about other festivals, or if, you know, about initiatives who could help you, and, you know, if you're a filmmaker, that can be residencies, that can be script writing labs. Yeah, you just have to know, basically, that internationally speaking, maybe differently, but, you know, lots of festivals like Locarno have been developing specific activities for professionals. You know, so lots of them, it's co-production platforms, but there can be workshops, very interesting workshops. Kind of academies, you know, which last only 1 week, but it can be very inspiring journeys also for filmmakers or producers also. There are some of you, if you have films which are already shot and you will need some additional money for post-production, there is some post-production, I would say, work in progress. So there are also this kind of thing which have been developing. And you have to know that, I mean, first, you know, we're talking about Europe, but in Asia, you have some opportunities, you know. Last year, I think we had at least, I think close to 50% of the filmmakers who came to Locarno last year had been to Busan, you know, either Busan Film Academy, several of them. So I've realized, I knew it was already a a very interesting, let's say, experience, you know, for many people. But I could really feel that for the filmmakers of the region, it was even more important. You know, some of them told me, some of the filmmakers who now have even been in selection, you know, in Locarno or in Venice, Berlin, and so on. They told me, well, you know, the first time, Sophie, you're going out, going directly to Europe, it's something. It's a big jump. And, you know, if I had to do it again, I think I would start with Asia first. And some of the youngest ones, you know, were in Locarno last year at Open Doors. They said, well, for example, Busan Film Academy was great for me. And many of them said that. So first, you know, maybe if you haven't been to Europe yet, or even to another kind of important Asian film festival, maybe you could explore that route first. And, you know, don't forget that Locarno Open Doors is still open to you next year. So, you know, maybe, yeah, you can think of Open Doors for this year or next year. But there are other, you know, interesting platforms. And in Switzerland, I must say that we have a diversity of festivals. So there is another festival, I mean, for sure there is one, in fact, in the town where I live, because I do not live in Locarno, but in Fribourg. There's the fifth, which is a great festival. It's too late for this year, but this is really a good festival, and several filmmakers who also we selected last year, for example, had been at fifth 2 or 3 years before. Also because we go to this festival and we meet the people from South Asia there. Or there is the Human Rights Film Festival in Geneva, or there is also one in Lugano, or, you know, and there is a documentary, a very good documentary film festival in Nyon, Vision Sud-Est. If you are a young filmmaker, I would like to encourage you know, you also to submit films to short film festival. First, festival, even important festival, have very often a short film competition like we have, but there are also short film festival. In Switzerland, there is a very good one, the Winter Tour Film Festival. It takes place in November. So if it's August, for example, to submit a film to Locarno is too early. You can also submit later to Winter Tour. And there had been last year I think we selected 3 filmmakers from Bhutan and Nepal who had been to Winter Tour in the last 5 years, you know. So same thing, you know, it's an exploration platform for professionals. So going to this festival, it's important because you start also your international journey. You want the mic?
Excuse me. No. I do have a question. I think I'm a little late. I wanted to know: are you guys discouraging or encouraging any kind of specific genre? Are there any specific genres? As you already said, that you're not encouraging fiction. So I wanted to know that if a paranormal thriller will fall into fiction, will it called as a fiction?
So you were talking about the genre in terms of fiction, right?
Yeah, it's actually, the script is actually about a paranormal thriller. It's a paranormal thriller. Mm-hmm. So will it fall under the category of the fiction?
You're talking about the festival.
No, I'm talking.
Open Doors.
I'm sorry, I was a little bit late, but I was actually interested in applying for the program you already.
In the what? Sorry, I can't hear
you. For the application.
For the application. No, it's fine. As I was saying earlier, I mean, diversity of genre, we will love it. We have a big majority of drama, but, you know, we will be interested, definitely. And in Locarno, okay, we have maybe a majority of dramas, but, you know, we also had some action and horror films on the piazza. Especially so, and sometimes again, if there is, we think on a very important, a special voice we want to highlight in terms of filmmaking. It could be any type. It can be a horror film also, or thriller, or, you know, even paranormal thriller, and it can be in selection also at the festival. you know, we have an audience, so, you know, you can play with the audience.
I have just two questions.
Sure.
One is if you could make sure that your presentation and the film link somewhere is accessible,
yes,
or you
sure.
put it on Facebook, or you send it to the teachers and to you.
Yeah, with pleasure.
That's one thing, so the people have access again. The other thing is, I just was asking myself, you mentioned a lot of different film festivals. There is the Geneva Human Rights Film Festival, there's the Fribourg Film Festival, the Winterthur. Even in Switzerland there are several film festivals. So you will receive ideas, project ideas, you will receive perhaps films, you will receive a lot of material.
Yes.
So some of them you will see, yes, that we want, and others you will say, no, it's too early, or we're not interested, or whatever. Is there some interaction with the people you send you a proposal? Do you say them why they will not be selected? Or will you propose them why you don't go to that film festival or to the other, or you go there? Or is there some interaction, or just a receive a no at the end, in case there is not a no?
Yes, that's a good question. So it's true that we are not expecting to have so many applications last year. So I hope we will be better organized, more ready to pick up the phone and be able to call the people. The thing is that usually we have to be quick in the sense that we know it's important for the people, you know, to receive the answer as quickly as possible. So usually we call everybody for the yes, and for the no, we send a written note, an email. Now it's true that we are at the disposal of the people, you know, as much as we can, if they want to have some indications why, what was the main problem. Usually we try to, in every email, to give the reason why, you know, the main reason why. Now, if you know, you really wish to keep on exploring the international route, because that's something which is very important. It's not because we do not select you that you are not a good filmmaker or a good producer. You know, it has to be very clear. You know, it's not a judgment. It's not a judgment at all. You know, first of all, we know our festival, as we were saying, and there are just in Switzerland many different festivals. I haven't talked about Zurich also, and we do not have the same type of programming. We do not exactly have the same professionals around. So when we do the selection, of course, we do the selection based on the material we have, and bearing in mind the people who will come to Locarno, is it a good match? And another dimension, which is sometimes I know very difficult for you to understand, is it the right moment for you and for your project to come to Locarno? And sometimes I had discussion with the filmmakers, and I know it's difficult to understand. You know, if I tell you, I'm sorry, but you know, we turned down your application. We were really interested in the project, but you know, we thought it was too early. I was discussing with some filmmakers in Sri Lanka who had been rejected last year, and I said, please apply again. It's just, you know, last year, you know, we could feel that the story was not there yet, you know, I mean, really. So it's very important. Rejections, you know, I've been rejected, and any professional has been rejected many times. And it's true that on the international level, it has become more and more competitive. You have to know also that in Europe, but in many countries in the world, you know, the film schools have been developing a lot. So there's a huge increase, in fact, of films being produced. Also with the new technology, with digital. As I was saying earlier, you know, we have about 40% more films to screen. And in terms of projects also, last year, you know, all professionals were telling me, I mean, professionals working with South Asia, Sophie, if you have about 50 applications, you will be very happy. And we have more than 100, you know. So of course we are not expecting that. Just to say, But that's a very important point.
But perhaps, sorry that I'm just taking, it's the last time I'm taking.
No,
but I think perhaps it's a comment to think on it, no? Because when you receive good things but you can't take it, perhaps to give them also a link to where it could be good to apply.
Yeah, usually I think it's better to do it talking, you know.
Yeah, of course.
So I think it depends on you if you're reactive also, and and usually we say something in the email, and then if you're interested, then I think it's better on the phone, because if then we discuss, we can also better target, in terms of time-wise, and also, yeah.
And perhaps another question, we didn't discuss it before. That's really development money for the Open Door. It's quite a lot of development money for that. SDC, as Swiss Development Corporation, is co-financing that thing. The whole Locarno Festival, they receive a lot of sponsoring from banks and etc. because it's really a huge budget. But as it's development money, and as our wish is really to bring young people, young filmmakers, young, however you calculate young, but I mean new filmmakers in, and also to change images and to bring especially Pakistan also to a Europe public. But I was asking me, and that we didn't discuss, but do you foresee also in next year, that year probably is too short, that you come to have like a workshop here with people?
Do you want to have a workshop here? If you do, we do. Okay, that's a deal. No, definitely. It's a good point, Stephanie. Thank you. It's just because in the PowerPoint presentation we cannot write everything, and especially maybe certain things about how we feel. Traveling to the various countries, like I'm looking at you, and as I was saying at the beginning, we cannot welcome everybody, unfortunately, in Locarno, but we would like at least to share with more people, or to guide or to discuss with more people, So if we cannot invite, so many people to Locarno, maybe we can bring, some Europeans, Swiss or some other Europeans, to Pakistan. So as I was saying earlier, maybe I can come back, but not alone next time. So maybe with some professionals, and we can discuss, but definitely, and because also for us it's very interesting. We are learning also a lot. I mean, I'm really curious, to know more about you, your work, your films, your stories, sometimes there are even investors in Europe who are saying, well, in Europe, you do not have so much imagination anymore in terms of stories, Well, it's always always the same thing, So it's, it's always a very rich experience for everybody. So be very eager, to come back and to share, because you are all professionals. So we're just sharing experiences coming from different journeys, but voilà. You're welcome.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you very much. I think we should break for tea. Tea is served upstairs. Let's have a cup of tea and continue discussing things. Thank you very much.